Hello everyone. Today's video is about self-soothing. How is it that we don't learn how to soothe our own emotions? I'm going to talk about that in this video, and I'm going to give you tips how to change that right now. Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. If you're new, please click the little subscribe button and the bell so you get notifications when I release new videos. And if you've been with me for a while, thank you so much and welcome back. I also just want to briefly mention the join button. That's to become a YouTube membership member. So today I want to talk to you about self-soothing. It is a subject that comes up so much in my coaching work because so often we're not taught how to literally soothe our own emotion. And the reality is, the reason that we don't know how to is because we were never taught it, right? I mean, that's obvious. But what does that even mean? You know, when you're a kid and you have a negative emotion and someone says to you, you're overreacting, you're too sensitive, you shouldn't feel that, don't act that way, that upsets me. All these things, and then we're kind of punished for it a little bit. What happens is, or a lot bit, we learn to disconnect from ourselves emotionally instead of soothe ourselves emotionally. Self-soothing would look like, oh, you feel that way? That makes perfect sense that you feel that way. Validation. And also mirroring. Oh, you feel that way. I see how you feel. It makes sense that you feel that way. Let's talk about some ways we can deal with this. Let's talk about some ways you can feel better about this. Let's work through the problem to a point of resolve. When that whole step that I just discussed does not happen, we don't know how to soothe our own negative emotion. And what happens for kids is we feel like we are overwhelmed. We are in overwhelm. We don't know how to handle it. We think we're going to die. We feel like it's going to take over our whole lives. And unfortunately, that is what we carry with us into adulthood, because if we don't learn how to self-soothe in childhood, how are we going to self-soothe in adulthood? Think about it. Did someone come into our lives in an early adulthood and say, oh, this is why you feel overwhelmed. This is why you can't handle your negative emotion. This is why you try to run from your emotion. No one's saying that, because we're not understanding ourselves why we're trying to run from what we feel, why we're constantly trying to go to these coping mechanisms instead of feeling safe in our own feelings, right? So often we don't feel safe in our own feelings because we're afraid that they're going to overwhelm us. We're afraid to even go there. Oftentimes when I tell people, you have to get real about how you feel so you can heal, people are like, why would I do that? As soon as I start to feel, it's like I'm afraid the whole bridge is going to open up and I'm going to be flooded with emotion. This is a total normal reaction when you haven't been properly soothed in childhood, when you haven't been taught that you can self-soothe, that you're going to be okay with your negative emotion, that all negative emotion really is stuck energy, or energy that needs to be released. And what we need to do is allow it to be what it is and know that we have the power to allow it to leave and come back to self. When we don't think that our emotions are going to be taken care of because no one taught us how to soothe and no one taught us how to take care of our emotion, we don't want to feel it at all. We're like, oh my gosh, let's avoid all situations that could be potential in. Let's not feel any of our feelings. Let's go drinking or shopping or any of the things. Let's be perfect so we don't have negative emotions, all the things, right? Not good, because what happens is all those childhood unresolved issues stay unresolved, and they pop up anytime anything happens that may feel overwhelming or create a negative emotion. You know what I'm talking about. So what do we want to do? What we want to do when we start to self-soothe, when you feel that you're having a negative emotion, you feel like an emptiness almost, or, oh, hi, Saint. My little dog's trying to get up here. We feel an emptiness, or we feel an overwhelm, or we feel like we are literally leaving our body. What's happening is we're abandoning ourselves when we have a negative emotion, because that's probably what happened to you in childhood. When you're not soothed into your emotion, what that means is that emotion was either abandoned or you were told how to abandon your own emotion. And so what you're doing now is you're abandoning yourself when you have a negative emotion, because you're afraid of the emotion. You're afraid of not being able to handle the emotion. And so, sorry, he's still doing his thing down there, if you guys can hear it. He's 4 months, he's teething, and he's biting mommy, but that's okay. But anyway, let's self-soothe him. So the point is, when you are about to leave yourself because you're afraid of the overwhelm, what I want you to do instead is stay there and look at yourself noticing the emotion. Look at yourself noticing the fact that you want to leave. Sorry guys, had to let Saint out. He was literally biting my leg off. So I hope you are okay with that. Back to the topic. So when you're starting to have that experience of feeling empty or like, I don't know how to handle this emotion, or it's overwhelm, instead of leaving and doing the thing that you usually do to distract yourself from that scary feeling, what I want you to do is notice that you're having that feeling and notice what you're about to do so that you don't have to feel that feeling, right? Notice that. That awareness is telling you I can handle this. That awareness is the part of you that is not the emotion. The awareness you're having about what you're feeling is the part I want you to really connect with. And you can close your eyes and you can take a deep breath and you can say, I'm understanding that this is not going to be overwhelming. But of course, it makes sense that it is overwhelming. I'm now going to self-soothe. And all your emotion needs, think about it. When you're a little kid and you're having a negative emotional reaction, what does that kid need? It needs to know that it's safe. It needs to know that you understand. It needs to know that you can handle it for them, right? If you didn't have that, you never learn how to handle it for yourself. So this is what you're going to do. It's a bit of reparenting. You're going to say, I can handle this for you. When you start to say that to your emotion, you're going to be surprised by what happens. If your emotion is too overwhelming that you need help, do it with someone. Don't do it alone. But when I started really healing my, let's say, unresolved emotional issues from childhood, I was able to hold with myself or a friend or a practitioner, I did all of the above, and really allow myself to feel that feeling and consistently tell myself, you are seen, you are heard, you are safe. I'm not going anywhere. I'm with you. I'm unconditionally with you no matter how bad it feels. How often do we have that experience in childhood when we were feeling crazy and someone was saying, totally okay, you're totally going to be fine. It's not as bad as you think. It's not as scary or big as you think, honey. It's going to be perfectly okay. And I'm with you until you feel okay. And then when you feel okay, we'll go get some ice cream or whatever. But most of the time we were met with, oh, you should be over right now. I can't deal with that right now. You're overreacting. It's not that bad. And every time that happened, even though it might have been well-intended, the truth is it was invalidating and also it wasn't soothing. And so what we do is we say, you're right, I shouldn't feel this. Now I'm mad at myself for feeling this. Now I'm going to self-blame for feeling what I feel. That is the exact opposite of what we want to be doing. What we want to be doing is self-soothing however we feel, however big that is, until we don't feel it anymore. Until we have resolve from an issue, so we have a resolved issue. When we have a resolved issue, guess what? We don't have a cycle of triggers. We get to resolve it, and it doesn't come back like that. It may come back little bits, and you're like, oh my gosh, I recognize that old trigger. I recognize the old trigger. But you won't be like, whoa, my whole self is thrown off. It gets less and less until it doesn't become anything. And, I wouldn't be sitting here today if I didn't have years of healing my own emotional wounds and not being triggered anymore. If I was being triggered like I used to be, I wouldn't be doing this work, and I wouldn't be able to be solid and happy and have an amazing life, right? We get to take our life back when we allow ourselves to get real with how we feel and allow those emotions to have resolve and soothe and feel back to balance. When we learn to come back to balance from any kind of emotional reaction or emotion that's in us, and we learn to honor what that is, it's an unresolved issue, we can now live knowing that we can resolve anything that comes up. We don't run from ourselves. We don't run from our emotions. We don't try to distract. We don't do that. I have clients that call me saying, I'm so excited I had the biggest trigger this week. This is what starts to happen because you're like, ooh, what's in it for me? What am I going to get to heal? What do I get to resolve? It stops messing with your life and it starts becoming this excitement because you know how to self-heal. So I want you guys to think about that. I also want to mention emotional rehab. It's down below in the link. In this course, you learn all of this. and then some. It is now open for enrollment. We are open for enrollment until it starts July 1st. So please check that out. Also, if you are a member of Truth Room Tribe, I will be seeing you guys soon. I love you all. Please share and subscribe, and I will see you next week.